Now, when it comes to the four of us fighting one another, it's easy that I'm the first to lose. Like I'll go ahead and probably bow out. I'll just go fetal position and lie down and watch from the ground all three of you fight each other because there's no way I'm beating any of you.
I'll just do a fast-paced walk around Marcus until his cigarette-filled lungs get out of breath and he just decides he doesn't want to fight anymore.
Right.
I just always
I'm
immediately
scrappy.
get naked anytime I fight.
That's true.
I'm a non-violent person. I practice non-violence.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, that's what I prefer.
So we're the first two out, I think.
I've practiced a lot of non-violence.
I personally would just rather not have to ever engage in combat with Tiny because one time Tiny smacked my butt so hard and he said, "Hey, that's not nice."
You have really big fists, Tiny.
They're more like hams.
I've never tasted one,
Do it right now.
and it just tastes like.
Hey everybody, I'm Dane Holland, and if you wouldn't mind tossing a coin to me.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer, and we got one of our own.
I'm Marcus, the space elf known as I'm Electric Man.
I'm Austin Tiny Zent, and toss a coin to your Witcher, I guess. I don't know.
That would be me in this situation on the episode of Nerd It Through the Grapevine, the podcast where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And season 3 of The Witcher is filming officially right now. And it makes me real excited because it's one of my favorite shows that I think I've ever seen. I'm a little biased because Henry Cavill plays Geralt, the main character in it, and he's also Superman in one of my favorite movies, Man of Steel. So going into it, I was already going to love it a lot. I didn't play the video games yet. I own, I think, all of them, but I own way too many of those.
You can find the
To begin
progress
with.
for The Witcher 3 on your system under my name, and you will find it is not very far at all.
It's hard.
Very
I
hard.
mean, it's no like Elden Ring, but it's hard. A baby demon beat me, and I think that's why I couldn't keep going.
You are so bad at fighting children.
I'm the worst.
Every child you come up against, no matter what character you have, gets destroyed by a child.
I'm telling you, no matter what the fight is, I'm the first one out. And yeah, the video game, I liked it okay, but I wasn't really into the story yet either because I knew nothing about it. And I think like a lot of people, maybe the same situation to where you watch the show and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, man, I wonder how good these books are. And I wonder how good the game is. And so now I'm wanting to get more. I just want all Witcher stuff just in my brain. And I recently listened to the Audible audiobook of the first book in the Witcher series.
Last Wish.
Yes. But
Short stories,
Yes,
correct?
short stories. Yeah, it's a collection of short stories. It's not the actual like main book storylines, but I've actually heard those aren't as good as the short story is, the short story collection of The Last Wish. The character of Geralt is very different in the book, which I mean, anytime we're going to compare a book to a movie or a show, it's going to be different. But normally the main character's personality isn't like a lot different, but in the book, he's very chatty. Like he talks a lot in the book, and it's not like just, you know, him thinking out loud, you know, because you're the reader or whatever. Like he talks a lot. And in the show, he doesn't really want to talk to anybody. He just kind of want to keep to himself and say when he's angry. But I kind of want to talk mainly about the Witcher show because that's what I'm most familiar with besides that one book. There's way too many books in the series for me to go over that since I've only just read the one. But I want to go over the Witcher TV series as fantasy. And in fantasy, I'm kind of mainly focusing on the setting, the characters, and like the monsters, like the threats of it. Because I think with most things that you could probably kind of categorize most fantasy series in those 3 different sections, I would say. I know magic is normally involved with it too, but I can kind of focus that towards the characters themselves, like, and how magic is used through them. So the book is actually a Polish story originally by, here we go,
Don't mispronounce the name of my people.
Anders Edge Sepkowski. What do you think? Yeah?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I doubt that it was correct. but-
ANDRZEJ. You've never heard those letters put one after another before.
That's a bold assumption, sir. That is a very bold assumption. What do you think my grandfather's name was? It was that exactly.
Jonathan?
No, it was actually the same as my first name.
Oh.
Austin?
That's
He's a
my
middle
middle
namer.
name. I'm a middle namer.
Raymond.
Cool. Let's just give everybody in the world my entire name.
Social
Thank
security
you.
number 14479.
911.
Oh my God! How did you know?
So the monsters and stuff are taken from like European folklore because with it being in Poland, that's kind of where all their stuff is circulated around. And I want to go through a few of the monsters in this just to kind of let you know most of them are blended with other monsters of European folklore history and from different areas, which I thought was pretty neat that they took them and didn't do a one-on-one, of stories that they've probably heard that we haven't. They took a collection of kind of personalities of these monsters and mushed them together. I believe it's even the first episode, the first moment we see Geralt, the Kikimora is what he was fighting in a swamp. And it's a mixture of a Slavic blend with the Russian Baba Yaga, because a Kikimora originally doesn't look like a spider thing. It's actually like this creepy thing that gets into your home and it causes a bunch of bad things. And if you stare at it in the eyes, you probably die.
Don't spiders do that?
But that's true, and that might have been where they're like, well, we might as well make it a spider. Oh wait, the Baba Yaga is this scary thing that lives like in the swamp kind of thing. So
Chicken feed on her house.
bingo. And that's where this crazy spider thing came from with that. The Striga is the cursed child that's still alive in the dead mother's womb, and it's grown into a demon monster. And in the show, that happens where Geralt comes across this, I believe he was a king, or not a king.
He was a lord.
Yeah, lord, yeah. And their daughter, a curse was put on her, and the mother had died in childbirth, and the kid still lived whenever that happened. So it kind of worked its way out, and it grew up a demon. And that one is a mix with Polish myth of babies dying before being baptized and haunting the homes of those that didn't have them like become Christian or whatever before they died. So that's kind of a mixture of that. And I believe the Slavic like Striga thing. There's different names. There's so many different names, and so many of them, they're very hard to pronounce. So I'm just going with the ones from the show. But the Doppler is the character in it that's like a doppelganger. He's the guy that will kill someone and then assume their image, like
Skin man.
their face. Yes, Skin Man. He changes his face completely to look like that person. And that is based, of course, on the word doppelganger, but it's mainly the Irish folklore version called a fetch that actually takes on and it's something that I believe in the Irish version of it, you see the face of like yourself in this creature before you die. So
it already takes your image before it even actually fully kills you.
I believe so. It's
pretty brutal.
And if you see yourself, like that's why if you see a doppelganger, like it's like a bad luck kind of thing or something, because your death is on its way.
I saw mine once.
Oh, that was a mirror, Austin.
No. At American Idol, when I auditioned, I saw my doppelganger.
They were there with you?
They were like 6 rows in front of me, and I still remember it to this day because I couldn't get over it. It's like I was looking at it like a different version of me from somewhere else, like the same exact everything, proportions, walk,
That's
face.
strange.
Yeah,
Did you make out with them?
I couldn't move for a minute.
Because you were making out with him?
No, the boner. He was so attractive.
Did you experience the quickening?
Oh, that's good.
Highlander style.
Also, in the show, the djinn is it's escaped from a bottle and it grants wishes, which we've all heard of that before, but it's mainly based on the Middle Eastern idea of a genie, because they come out of a bottle and they grant you wishes. In the show, Geralt and Jaskier find one in a lake, and in the moment that it's released, Geralt wishes that Jaskier would just shut up. Like he just wishes he couldn't, like, that he couldn't speak. So his throat gets all swollen up, like real bad, gonna die kind of situation, and he can't say anything. And now the djinn is connected to Geralt without him actually knowing that. He actually thinks that it just got away. He doesn't realize that that's the reason that it happened. And later on, the djinn is very important to Geralt and Yennefer's story. And actually, the wish Geralt makes whenever Yennefer is trying to get the djinn to allow her to have a child, it's actually connected to Geralt. So he's the one that has to make the wish. And in that moment, he wishes that she were more connected to him. So that's where their relationship kind of starts to bloom.
And that also caused a dramatic turning point when Yennefer found out about it, because then she was like, nothing between us is real. This is all just spell.
Yeah, it's just from a wish, like from a genie.
I'm just upset I didn't get a spoiler for it because I've seen like 2 episodes, maybe.
It's been out forever.
I
They're on
know.
season 3.
I mean, it's fine.
Here's a tiny one.
Thank you. That was just for me.
just for you. The last one I'm talking about as far as monsters go, this one is from the 2nd season. It's called a Leshy. And in the show, Geralt's buddy Eskel turns into one after being infected by another that he fought earlier on. And that is based on a Slavic angry trickster forest spirit.
Nice.
That they're normally, I think in that folklore, in the Slavic version of it, they're not normally like deadly things that are looking to kill a bunch of stuff. They're more like they'll speak to people while they're in the woods, and just if they're going to harm, the woods and stuff, that's when they'll get kind of deadly with them. So besides the monsters, there's a Polish parable that I really liked and that I made a stretch to relate it to this, because I was like, man, I hope I do all this research and I find all this like cool Polish folklore and it's going to relate immediately to the story. That's not what happened. I had to make a reach. But this is one of my favorite parables. It's called Bread and Sword. As the bread lay next to the sword, the weapon felt stirred. You would certainly show me more respect if you heard how by night and by day I diligently strive, so that you may safely go on keeping men alive. I know, said the bread, the shape of your duty's course. You defend me less often than you take me by force. And I thought that was really cool. That's a neat little parable. And
it is cool. I also think it's really cool how the direct translation rhymed.
It did, but I actually changed 2 words, like 2 also words that rhyme that mean the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. And for me, that is like Geralt is a bread's favorite sword, because he is there to protect and defend people against these monsters. He isn't actively like, I want to go kill a bunch of monsters. It's like, these things are dangerous to humanity. I must protect them from them. And he just happens to be like, well, this is my job, so I'll make coin from it, instead of like just wanting the coin as opposed to actually being able to defend.
So unlike Steve Irwin, who would go and capture the animals and then release them into their own area, he just knows that they're already causing too much trouble and damage where they are. They need to be put down.
Right.
So in a way, Geralt is kind of like the crocodile hunter of his world.
Just like I did with the parable, it's a good stretch. It's a really good
He
stretch.
could do a whole lot better with those shorts,
So
Jesus.
the characters, as far as species of humanoids, because the others, monsters, most of the other characters that aren't monsters you see in the show are humanoid in nature, or at least a blend of humans with, of course, elves, dwarves, dark elves, partial elves, which we find Ciri has some involvement with as to why she is so powerful and why
Ciri?
she has powers at all. Yes. Don't say it too loud. She'll start listening.
Siri, are you involved with elves?
Austin, earlier you had asked...
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
I'm not sure if she's lying to me or not.
Austin, you had mentioned the Boar Man earlier. That was actually a Bruxa that was the creature that the Boar Man was in love with.
Yeah.
That she was feeding on him, and on the townspeople around there.
He thought that he would be enough because he was immortal.
Yes.
But he just couldn't stop her.
Nope.
And he didn't want to because he loved her.
Exactly. And it turns out she was a vampire. He thought she was some other, I don't remember the name of the other one, but there's some kind of like more docile version of a monster that he thought she was, and what he tells Geralt she is. But it actually turns out she's basically a vampire. So they call them higher vampires. So a Bruxa, that's what that basically is, which I thought was a neat take on a vampire compared to other versions of them that we've seen.
I liked the transformative nature because it was, she was, beautiful and elegant and just soft spoken. Then all of a sudden,
the nymphs or dryads in it were the women in the forest where Ciri is on her journey and she stumbles upon them, and they have a ritual to where if you enter their woods, they have you drink this, I don't know, woods syrup, and it's
Maple syrup.
maple. Yeah, we'll go maple. They have you drink this delicious pancake syrup, and it's able to determine whether your intentions for the forest are negative or positive. And if they are negative, then you're going to have a bad time and probably dead, buried underneath the forest. But in Ciri's case, she was fine. And the traveler with her was an elf, and he was also fine because they're more connected to nature than most humans would be.
Why,
in those
yes,
woods.
they are.
And elves are actually probably the last one that I want to talk about from this. There are a few more, but the elves, I think, are one of the most interesting to me because they, like in other media, we've seen them as more of a higher society, kind of like above every other kind of race kind of deal. And in this, they were actually, it's more of akin to like American Indians, to where they were on the land far before humans were. But as humans got there, they overtook them, basically took their land, and they banished them from their own homes. So they are pretty much sneaking food from farms to just try to survive. And they've got their like highborn, elves amongst these people. And their lives are very rough ever since humans got involved. And Geralt has a lot of run-ins with them, and they end up having to join up with this Nilfgaardian army. And they, of course, stab him in the back, and they're just constantly trying to regain their place in society and what they feel is their right, too, because they were there first. And it's just an interesting take on it to see elves doing everything they can to become the elves that we know, like kind of before The Witcher, before watching it.
So the elves that you mention in The Witcher are actually Tolkienian elves. And
Really?
I guess really what I was wanting to talk about were kind of the elves from oral tradition and how they kind of always existed, but then they kind of passed out, like words like fairy and dwarf and goblin actually kind of overtook the word elf. And Austin, you're going to like this one because the word elf comes from some, Germanic language, but is typically said elf.
oh, that's just like people from Sparta would say.
Exactly.
It.
Elves.
Them elven.
Did you see that movie with Tim Allen in it? Had all them elves. he got real damn fat for that.
So magic people living invisibly alongside everyday human communities. That's kind of another belief that kind of happened. And then like in Shakespeare's time, like in his Midsummer Night's Dream, there's some elves, and that kind of developed what you're talking about, like the Christmas elf, like these kind of more playful, childlike beings. But then Tolkien came around and wrote his elves, kind of repopularizing the elves of tradition, of the oral tradition, being more like humans, beautiful, kind of almost an ideal version of man. And maybe even I think these might even be Tolkien's words, like if man hadn't fallen in the Garden of Eden.
Gotcha.
So it's like a purified mankind, kind of. And then D&D around, the 80s and stuff, just takes these ideas of the elf, of the Tolkienian elf, and now everybody knows it. And like we all know that trifecta of like the dark elf, the high elf, and the wood elf.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are many, many, many others.
There are a few more, yeah.
So elves, they tend to be immortal or long-lived in comparison to humans. They're more beautiful, they're wiser, they're sharper senses and perceptions. The things that they create often take on magical or alien things about them. They usually don't possess facial or body hair. They are not really portrayed as fat or old.
Yeah.
They're kind of androgynous in nature. They kind of blend the lines between male and female. They're typically depicted as more ancient than humans or other races and kind of flourished in a golden age, which kind of brings in those Witcher elves. Because for me, the way they fit the trope is that they thrived long before humans ever came by. And I think I was reading about them on a wiki, like a Witcher wiki, and it said like at least 2,000 years before humans came around, the elves were kicking it in their awesome cities before the humans came and destroyed it all.
Well, I think it also has to do with the population situation with The Witcher, because humanity just grew so fast and so broad, and it's like a huge deal whenever one of the elves in the story is going to have a child. Like, it's a huge deal because they just don't have children anymore. I guess it's because just in their genetic makeup over time. I'm sure there's
that's in The Witcher?
Yeah.
They don't have kids anymore?
It's rare, I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Because they had that one.
In the second season.
Yeah, the first pure-born elf or whatever.
Yeah, the first one born.
In a long time.
Yeah, and they had a
that.
huge party. Like, every single elf went ape shit about it.
I think it's the first one in 3 generations or something like that. Something crazy.
So, and I don't know the exact specifics on why that is, but I maybe it's just a thing over time, that just became a part of their race or whatever. But humanity has no problem just multiplying like crazy, and I think just pure numbers were able to take them over.
Right. Well, and much like in Tolkien, the elves are kind of leaving Middle Earth. Like, the age of the elf is kind of over. They're retreating from the darkness that is spewing forth from people like Morgoth and Sauron, and so they are kind of looking as to men to be like the next people. Like, y'all are it's gonna be up to you guys now. So they, the time of the elf is over. Elves often are kind of like a living relic of the setting itself, and they kind of derive, mythology kind of derives from the elves a lot of times, and kind of the source of the lore of the world kind of comes from the elves.
So, question: when did the cookies come into play?
Oh,
yeah.
So those would be Christmas elves.
Oh, yeah.
Those would be the
Keeblers.
that was actually more of a late 19th, early 20th century, almost Victorian kind of idea, based on the William Shakespeare. Is this the more fun loving little elf, but it was more, they called them literary elves. They were kind of more for the upper class educated people. And then those kinds of elves started cropping up a lot more in fiction during that time.
I do like the grasshoppers that they make.
And while we're on that topic too, I mean, I really do enjoy the EL fudge sandwiches. It's the acronym of ELF, EL fudge,
Of course it is.
The double stuffs, please, if you don't mind.
Delicious. I had no idea that Shakespeare was the reason, that version of the elf came to be, or the main reason.
I think the people after Shakespeare, they kind of the idea kind of lingered in the mind of the literary types because of Shakespeare.
And these other elves, you mentioned that they're usually associated with some kind of angelic being or demonic being, and that's
correct.
Probably because all the things that they do better than humanity, and humanity is we don't understand how this is possible without some kind of divine intervention. Right.
Well, yeah, they're often associated freely with the gods even sometimes. There's even etymology there's some relation. I'm no expert. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah. But, it's the idea of elves being associated with the gods or demigods is a very common thing.
That's the duality that you see in the scene whenever, what's her name? You can just tell me automatically that's played by...
Kate Blanchett?
Kate, thank you. The way that she got so obsessed with the thought of the ring for a second, and from that beautiful shining light, she also turned to that ginormous, menacing shadow. That's a very good example of that duality that you mentioned there, because it shows the capability of both sides.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's even more accentuated in the book.
Really?
I've recently made it through the first one, which was a bit of a slog because there's so many songs.
You should
It
have
was-
seen the text
oh,
messages
God.
we were getting from Tiny as he's going through the first audiobook. He's like, I didn't know it was a musical. It's all songs.
Yes.
It's only music.
I mean, once you get past that, it's got a really good story. And some of the scenes from the movie are really accentuated, especially that one in particular. Like, I had chills. Andy Serkis did a phenomenal job as the narrator. It was pretty dope.
Thank you.
Pretty dope. So once I realized, I was like, okay, elves are one of the standard like fantasy races. It's a trope, right? Elves are just a trope, and they're used in very similar ways, but also slightly different. And so what do I do when I get obsessed with tropes? I go to tvtropes.org.
Of course.
And so I just decided to kind of just read some of this because it just does a lot of my work for me here. So most elves share the following traits. They're human-sized or about that size. They're better than you, better than me, and better than other elves too. They're just always better than you, and they won't let you forget it. Of course, the pointy ears. Shannara would not let us overlook that little detail.
Yeah, that's true.
Gosh, that got on my nerves. They're really long-lived, maybe even immortal, or at least just kind of ageless, even if they're not technically, like, biologically immortal. We've already went over they're magical, they're pretty, they're in decline, and they may be descended from a great civilization that collapsed in the past. They're kind of a dying race. Will either be exceptionally chaste or only have sex within the bounds of true love, or they might be sexually liberated, and maybe even polyamorous, kind of depending on the author and what they would see as like a superior species attitudes towards these kinds of things. I know what mine are. Anything they make is beautiful, amazing. They have a strong warrior tradition, and this is my favorite part. There's so many different kinds of elves, and that's where it gets fun. There's the high elves. They are, normally live in these shining cities that are just way better than all of our cities. Rapiers, they always have bows. They always have these very slender, almost more technique over brute strength kind of finesse about them.
You always got those dope elven daggers on Skyrim.
Yep. And the high elves in Skyrim are a perfect example of like, we're better than you.
Oh, yeah.
You suck. You're terrible. And you're, full Daedric armor.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's your wood elves. Those are the ones that are more in tune with nature. They usually kind of live in like a hidden elf village, almost like the dryads or whatever you're talking about in The Witcher.
Yeah.
They're kind of even more of like the archer. The wood elves are even more archery focused typically. They're usually more relatable, the wood elves, as characters. Like they're, not so high and mighty.
They're just a bunch of hippies.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they're probably the ones that are responsible for more of the half elfin population, if you
elves.
understand me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got our dark elves, which I mean, who doesn't
Drow.
love dark elves?
Drows
So
are so cool.
It's the coolest fantasy race
Yeah.
ever,
Oh, yeah.
I think.
The in The Witcher, the dark elf that we come across is the house that grows legs and is a monster. Inside of that house is a dark elf that is manipulating a few different characters into doing,
I liked that part of The Witcher.
her bidding to actually overtake Ciri, like to transfer her soul to Ciri. And that showed just how powerful the dark side of elves can be. Like if they were to have that path as opposed to being, like high and mighty there.
Right. Or even a wood elf, typically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because the dark elves, according to TV tropes, are kind of more bent on evil, rather, or they're just kind of more of ambiguous morality. They often live underneath the earth. They're often like an underground kind of race. Typically, kind of have dark gray, black skin, bone white hair.
Oh, in The Witcher, I think that they had talked about like Ciri's power being so strong that if she were to use it inappropriately, like for the wrong reasons, it could cleave the world in two. Like, just thinking of how strong that would be from that dark power that she could release.
When she screams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have noticed a distinct lack of space elves in your topic. What do you think a Vulcan is?
It was my intro thingy. Yeah, we're getting there. I had to go through the big trifecta: the high elves, the wood elves, and the dark
I
elves.
just
first.
didn't want them forgotten.
And the
Okay.
really, really, really high elves.
because there
in space.
are varieties. There
Yeah.
are sea elves. Snow
Yeah.
elves, sun elves, half elves, the fair folk, which I don't know exactly. I'd have to read. So I guess it's different.
I would
A little
hate
bit.
to walk by a tribe of sun elves right in the middle of lunchtime because they just consume through their buttholes the sun rays and stuff,
yeah.
just like
Yes.
Just like that one model guy.
Like
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
supposed to.
yeah, the sunning elves.
And fair elves are just carnies. So
Okay, Tiny. Space elves can be a straight up copy or an analog of any of the aforementioned variants of elves, but in space.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they will usually kind of be a proud, scholarly race, kind of
Vulcans.
setting them aside. Right. Setting them aside from the stout, bearded, warrior kind of aliens. And they're usually notable because their technology is either organic or like crystalline, and it kind of like fuses with nature rather than goes against it. And they could obviously outrun you and destroy your ship in like swatting a fly off the wall. And, extra points for laser bows.
yep.
so many, at least 50 extra points.
I've probably seen an anime that had space elves with laser bows.
Oh, yeah. We
I
definitely have.
really feel like that's hitting something in the brain.
Yeah. Well, and the dark elves from Thor, too, the Dark World. They were kind of cool.
I let the dark world escape my brain. So I
Well,
don't
it
really
came on
remember much of
TV.
that. Yeah.
One time, and I watched it. I didn't choose to watch it. It was just on TV.
It was there.
It chose you.
You can't, you can't
straight-
change
And I'm
the
like,
channel.
ooh, there's dark elves.
Yeah, I straight DNC'd that one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I love elves. I mean, but it's weird. Like, I can't pick my favorite elf character.
Yeah.
It's
No, I
hard to
get that.
do because they're all kind of the same a little bit.
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah.
Like, what if the actors were even switched in the roles? You probably couldn't even tell a difference. Like, if Legolas's actor Orlando Bloom got switched with like the captain of the guard of the other high
Shannara?
elves. yeah, Shannara.
Orlando Bloom in Shannara. Hey, maybe it would actually be good.
Yeah, call Orlando Bloom short tips. See what Katy Perry has to say about it.
Dang.
She defend her man.
Yeah.
Slap the taste out your mouth.
Keep Orlando's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to.
Wow, dude. Also, I had to mention the whole little elf, like the traditional beliefs, kind of reminded me a lot of the UFO beliefs of today.
Oh,
They're
that would
very
be
similar. Very, very similar.
because you'd have all those coexisting stories of people that say and swear that they've experienced these elves. And actually, if you go to Savannah, Georgia, you will notice walking around everywhere that they have doors on the side of a lot of their houses. Tiny doors, little tiny doors
For fairies?
for fairies. And that comes from those same beliefs and superstitions about the elves and the fairies. So that's pretty
Space
cool.
elves. It's not UFOs. It's space elves.
What
everyone.
if?
I've never even thought of that.
We figured it out.
We'll see. We've taken over and we forced the poor elves to have to go into space. So anytime we see UFOs, it's just an elf visiting a tree that he used to know.
Those are some good ideas.
I mean, that's
some good ideas
I'm,
here.
I'm thinking that's exactly what it is.
Some ficus that I used to know.
Exactly.
That'd be cool if Armageddon was actually just space elves.
Live long and prosper.
Oh yeah,
Really, really long.
So jumping off from space elves, that brings us to my topic. It's Frogman, and we all know about Marvel's Frogman, son of Leapfrog, the supervillain. He decided, since his dad retired, to take his father's, frog suit and to do good in the world instead of evil. And thus, Frogman was born. And he gets his abilities from his suit. He can jump and he has super strength and all that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Ohioan folklore Frogman,
Oh jeez,
the Loveland Frogman.
I knew it.
It's a folklore heavy episode, guys.
I know.
I'm loving it.
I called it.
He is a humanoid frog described as standing roughly 4 feet tall and allegedly spotted in Loveland, Ohio. In 1972, the Loveland Frog legend gained renewed attention when a police officer reported to a colleague that he had seen a large animal consistent with the description of a frogman. he saw it like off in the swamp. He's patrolling late at night, and he saw this giant frog, and then it stood up on its hind legs as if it were a man and began to walk. And doing as any good police officer would do, he gets out of his cruiser and he yells, "Oi! Are you a frogman?" And to which there's no reply. Because after he told us, this is the first guy. Okay, the second guy reported his call. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I saw one too. I killed it." So he saw the frogman off and through the fog late one night. He stood up and he yelled, "Oi! You a frogman?" And like I said, it didn't say anything. It didn't even say Budweiser. And then so he pulled out his service pistol, which, being Ohio and the backwards ass state that it is, I assume it was an old 38 special. And then so he dumped like 6 rounds in its chest, and he went over to it and couldn't find the body. I know.
He vaporized it.
He vaporized the frog with 6 shots to the torso region.
Yeah, that was the special in the 38.
Special disintegrating rounds. Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah. The officer's name was Ray Shockey. Why is his name funny?
No, there's a joke somewhere in there for it
I wish
too.
it was.
Because he was shocked when he saw him.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
He back croaked.
So, like I said, it was March 3rd, 1972 at 1 a.m. There was also a possible lizard man because another one was shot. And when they come upon it, it was basically looked like a giant iguana minus its tail.
So, real quick, I'm going to interrupt you just while everybody catches a breath. What we've learned from the past few topics here is that there's a reason why man is the dominant species, and it's also the ruination of the planet. It took it from the elves, any kind of other areas of evolution that might want to happen, like a frog, that takes on human characteristics, or a lizard that takes on human characteristics. Are they going to take it and observe it and maybe nurture it, maybe see if it grows into something? And they're like, different, different.
Yeah, pretty much that's what we do.
That's why I don't vote.
I mean, I feel like if we, as in the 4 of us, found a frog person, I feel like we would try to, integrate it into the group, maybe learn its language and teach it ours and become best friends. And then we'd have a frog man as a 5th man on the show.
Well, do you know those moments in your life where you're like, hey, that's going to be a new fear?
Dane hates frogs.
Yeah, this is good. A 4-foot-tall frog man to just be in my peripheral at all times.
Dane's gonna have nightmares. Dane's gonna have nightmares coming out into the grape sect, and he's gonna just, he's gonna flip on the light, and for a brief second, he just sees a giant, 3-foot head span frog head.
Throat just
In August of 2016, on local Cincinnati TV stations, they reported a night of fun turned into a chilling tale of hell. That's very hard to say.
A chilling tale of hell.
Yep.
a night of fun.
2 teenagers were playing Pokemon Go between Loveland, Madeira Road, and Lake Isabella, and they claimed to see a giant frog near the lake on August 3rd that stood up and walked on its hind legs. That one in particular was later to be... Okay.
Smack it.
Gracias, papi.
It was later revealed to be a local student from Archbishop Moeller High School in a homemade frog costume.
Thank God no one shot him.
So
Yeah.
he was Greninja. They found a Greninja out in the world.
Sure.
He should
I'll go with
know,
that.
dressing up as a frog, he should know what's happened to past frogmen.
Yeah.
The immediate reaction is to fire upon them.
What year
Yeah.
was this again? 2016?
2016.
He had the internet. He knew better.
He knew better.
He was the lone survivor. Poor frogmen. So James Renner's science fiction mystery novel, The Man from Primrose Lane, also features a version of the Loveland Frogman.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of the folklore Frogman. I've only heard of the Marvel Frogman, which is our unofficial mascot because they'd sue us. And I only heard about him whenever we made Frogman jokes and not even knowing that it already existed.
Yeah.
The folklore's been around for a
Now
while.
it's going to be a part of Phase 45.
of the Marvel
Right.
series.
Well, it's like, I didn't even know about it either until Seven, who is the reason this topic is here, mentioned it to me. He's like, as many times as y'all have talked about, Seven doesn't sound
That's
anything
not what he
like
sounds.
this.
I've heard his voice.
As many times as y'all have talked about the Frogmans, you ain't once talked about the Loveland Frogman. And I was like, what is this? He's like, let me send you a link there, sonny. And so he sent me a link, and I read it, and I was like, well, this is a topic now.
That's not what Sarah sounds like at all.
I even said Seven sounds nothing like this.
That's such a good character voice for him, though.
I'd like that to replace the robot voice of when they black out the person that's being interviewed. Instead of a robot voice, it's just you saying that.
Just doing like the most southern lispy thing I
Yes.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there that night, and I saw the shooter.
That was he.
I saw the shooter with my own two eyes. That's why they've disguised my voice and gave me this nifty cowboy hat.
So there I was driving on my patrol, and I saw this thing stand up off in the fog. And so I got out of the cruiser and I tried talking to it, and it didn't talk, and it was roughly 4 foot tall. So then I drew my service pistol and I capped its sorry ass. But then when I got over there, it disappeared. I was like, what the heck, man? And I'm like, my buddies at the station, they'd never believe this. And then I told them, and one of them said, yeah, I did that last week. Craziest thing I ever heard.
I didn't shoot him, though. Well, that was your mistake.
That was your mistake.
I wouldn't have had to.
Can you imagine what them big old frog legs would taste like? I like the little ones. Maybe the big ones are better. Maybe they taste like, I don't know, not chicken. Oh, God.
Frog legs do actually taste a lot like chicken.
They really do. No body was ever found in Frogman.
One was, it looked like a giant iguana with no tail.
And what does science say?
I don't know. Look, Wiki didn't tell me. Okay?
No, it probably did at the end, but you do always want to stop reading the article.
I
so
actually did
so
not
the
this
magic,
time.
So the magic is still alive.
I actually
Yeah.
went through the entire article with you gentlemen. It was a very
man.
short one.
I have
Spoil us.
I've seen pictures of it even before the internet was doing its thing. Of the one that was killed.
They didn't find the one that was killed.
No, not the one that was killed, but like the dead body that they found.
Well, I'm saying it's not dead if they didn't find the body. We all know that that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a higher being that, transcends us and projectile weapons. There is an artist representation of what Frogman looks like. Included into the article.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Where's his bow tie?
It's just a frog.
He needs a bow
Hey.
tie and a cane.
I think he's got nipples right here and here,
He
but
sure
I can't
do.
really tell.
He's also missing just a suit vest.
Yep. Yeah, and there's also a picture of an orange iguana. I don't know why.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
It's just a nice picture of an iguana. I wish
guess
you all
if
could
you
see it.
don't know what an iguana looks like, the mother source has decided to gift you with that image as well.
Boys, I hold
I'm a man.
Boys, I hold in my hands 5 pieces of crudely folded paper because I couldn't remember how I wanted to fold each of them, so they're all a little different. They're like snowflakes, damn it. Okay. So everybody gets to pick one of these pieces of paper out of my hand.
Okay, do I know what I'm going to do with it once I have it?
You will here in a second.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
Marcus?
I can't reach.
I'm not getting up. Come over there to you.
When can I
I read
reads
it?
first? Who reads first?
I was just going to have you guys to give me just... Jesus. All right, so what's going to happen is I'm going to rehash a little bit from my last week's topic of superpower beatdown. And I've asked my fellow grapes to come pre-prepared with their own hero that they would like to throw into the pool of battle time of our own superpower beatdown. Dane,
Hi.
what was your character?
I chose the hero, the Rocketeer, because I enjoyed the movie as a child and the comics as an adult.
There was a movie?
Yeah, Disney made it.
I didn't know that.
It's charming. It's fun. He beats the shit out of Nazis.
I'm going to have to look this up. That's awesome.
There's a Zeppelin in it, too.
I love watching Nazis get their asses whipped.
Hell yeah.
And Zeppelins. Marcus, who did you bring?
Reptar
Reptar?
from the Rugrats universe.
So the Tyrannosaurus Rex that was irradiated that has the same powers as Godzilla but is worshipped like a Mickey Mouse in the Rugrats universe.
By children, yes.
Okay, understandable. Tiny?
Azrael.
Azrael. Why Azrael?
Because he's awesome. He has enhanced abilities. He's a lot like Batman. He even fills in for old Batman when he disappears for a while before he ascends to godhood on the Mobius throne.
Whoa.
And his armor is called like the Suit of Sorrows. Super metal. It's awesome.
Is that metal? Marcus?
That's
is-
emo.
is
I think
pretty-
it's emo.
pretty metal.
Is it
Pretty
metal
metal.
or is it emo? Is it both?
No. That's pretty metal.
Is e-metal a thing? Oh, that's
Yeah,
probably some dumb internet thing.
screamo.
Okay, sure.
Screamo.
That's e-metal. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I'd done a little research on that too. One of his powers too is that the Suit of Sorrows. This is post Flashpoint. The Suit of Sorrows actually has artificial intelligence integrated, and he can find weak points automatically in his targets.
Great.
Like, where he needs to strike. So
He's like Batman,
So
but a little cooler. Yeah. As much as I hate to say that because I love Batman, but he's like Batman plus Ultra.
see, Azrael is more for like the hipster comic fan, right? I mean, if you know, he's more. You root for him. It's more of a hipster choice than Batman.
Maybe.
It's a style choice.
Yeah.
Is he like religious too? Or is it like some sacred order of thing that
It's like
he
a sacred order thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was like a crusade kind of thing.
Yeah, because
Caped crusader. Well,
Kind of all that together.
okay.
I've brought 3 combatants to face off versus your heroes of choice.
Reptar shall destroy whoever you put before me.
Thank you for finally giving Reptar a voice. Thank you.
Oh man, he never did speak, did he?
No.
Did he just
Like,
roar?
no, and the only Reptar stuff I can remember too is like he had the Reptar candy bar. He's lean, he's mean, he'll turn your tongue green.
Why do you remember that?
Because I'm a freak. The Rocketeer is going to go up against Batwing, and Batwing has shown knowledge of martial arts. He is supplied by Batman with a variety of gadgets and weapons and tech, including his superpowered suit that grants him the ability to fly through gliding motions and a little bit of enhanced strength and maneuverability.
Dang though, because my ace in the hole is going to be the fact that I can fly with a rocket pack.
Yeah, but you might be better off in some way, shape, or form. You know a little bit about this guy. How would he beat it? Marcus Reptar is going up. Oh, this is a city in crisis, and who they're going to call for this?
Batwing.
Inspector Gadget.
He stands no chance.
Inspector Gadget versus Reptar. These are childhood things. Nostalgia
No
fight.
child better watch this fight. No child better watch this one.
I've already solved that puzzle. I already know the winner.
Oh no. What's the last one?
The last one to go up against Azrael is Sasquatch.
Not Sasquatch from Alpha Flight.
Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. It's a Canadian comic book series. And he's an enhanced form that has superpowers like enhanced strength and resistance to injury. And it's even enabled him to go head to head and toe to toe with the Hulk. That also means they have to be similar in height.
Yep.
Head to head, toe to toe. All right. So let's boogie.
Okay. Do we all want to discuss mine first since
Yes.
I
Yes.
drew a hyphen?
Yes, high fan.
The Rocketeer. Let me just tell you exactly what the Rocketeer can do. He's a stunt/racing pilot, and he has a gosh dang jetpack. He's an athletic fighter. He's a skilled marksman. He fights Nazis. He's lucky he's real lucky. He's like Jar Jar style lucky, to where he's trying to do something right, something really screws up, but he ends up like finding like it's a good thing that happened from it. And Cliff Secord is his name, and that's just cool in itself. And he also has a mechanic sidekick, and his name is PV.
That's cool.
Those are all cool things about the character.
Yes.
So cool factor point for the Rocketeer, right? He has a neat helmet. He's got a really cool helmet. It's got like a fin on it. It's like a bronzy gold color, and
Kind of reminds me of the Ray.
kind of like the Ray. Yeah, similar to that. Oh man, he's just fun. He's cool. You know, he's just a guy. He's a guy that knows how to, because he's not, you'd think maybe when you hear the Rocketeer, like, okay, maybe he was in the military or something and they got this experimental jetpack and now he's a military jetpack fighter man. No, he just knows how to fly planes fast and cool. You know, he's not a big bad fighting machine.
So this is going to be based on. I'd imagine that the fight would have to come down to territory base as to how it would come down. Because if you're in the wide open, like if you're in the plains and you've just got speed and you've got ability to just move and go, he's going to be able to get several hits and several things done to Batwing before Batwing has a chance to respond. But if they're in a city-style setting, your Batwing is going to have a better time responding to that glide scenario rather than, that jetpack scenario.
Well, here's the problem, though. Batwing was trained by the one and only Batman.
That's true.
Okay.
Batman was the world's greatest detective, so that
Right.
means Batwing was the second greatest detective in the world. And the problem with humans doing anything trying to be sporadic, we always devolve into a pattern. So all he has to do is sit back and watch for a minute. He'll take a couple of licks during this, but he will watch you until the pattern forms and then just take you out.
But
one solid blow.
The Rocketeer's a stunt racing pilot. He does stunts fast.
He will devolve into a set pattern.
But at the same time, too, he's an agent of chaos because he is overly lucky.
He is.
So the idea that chaotic nature could be involved in that actual formulation, that can't be determined that easily.
Yep.
I didn't say it'd be easy, but as, the number 2 greatest detective in the world.
So
See, I feel like that's a logical leap. I feel like you're leaping there. Just because he was trained by Batman does not mean that he's just as good or just slightly less.
Yeah, he
than
got
Batman.
Robin got killed by
Robin
Joker.
got killed by a clown.
That's because Robin was a bird, not a bat.
Batman's sidekick that he trained got killed by a clown.
Well, actually,
And
a couple of them did.
Yes, and you're saying that the
Just the wing.
second best detective can beat the best stunt racing pilot
Yes,
in the air.
because he'll detect the weaknesses and the pattern.
Okay, we've got 1v1 here on the fan votes here. So what do you think, Marcus?
What's your vote?
I think Rocketeer's got him.
Hell yeah.
think Rocketeer might have him?
I think so.
I think that's I think that's good. I'm gonna vote. If they're in a city setting, there's only one way for us to decide this, and it's going to be rock, paper, scissors. If they're in a city setting, the Rocketeer is going to lose.
All right.
If they're in an open setting, the Rocketeer is going to win.
I can fully accept this. Tiny, can you fully accept this?
I guess.
Okay. Ready?
Get it?
Okay.
Okay.
Kill him.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Fireball.
And I got the parchment.
I cast fireball, so you burn up.
Not true. I win. I won. You saw.
It turns out they were in a open setting, and the Rocketeer won.
Yay!
Now on to the threat onto the city. Reptar.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that what his voice is now?
he never had one. I don't know. I was just guessing.
It's just real laissez-faire.
I just saw Reptar like behind the scenes, like with his hand on his head, just slightly above his eyebrow, and he's just saying like, I don't know, man.
I mean, it is a thing that I didn't even remember that I remembered Reptar until the other day when I spoke his name.
When you thought of Reptar, what size of Reptar were you thinking?
I literally
Like
pictured
Godzilla
him-
size?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's kind of what I'm imagining he is in the secondary fiction inside of the fiction.
It is.
That the Rugrats, yeah. So
he's essentially just a Godzilla-like creature that is worshipped the way Mickey Mouse is. So every kid wants a little squishy, Reptar toy or something like that, or everything shaped like Reptar that you buy, like the Reptar wagon and this
Chicken
and that.
nuggets.
right. And so in the spirit of Godzilla, they would battle it out. Inspector would pull out all the stops. He'd pull everything out of his bum
Because
that
as
he
soon
could
as
possibly try, but it would just fail. And so Reptar would be destroying the city. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say he's got counteractions for things like Reptar to be like, "Here's my molten flame breath. Go, gadget fire hose!" And they would be fighting it out, Dragon Ball Z laser beam style, coming out of each hands. One mouth, one hand.
I'm pretty sure canonically with Inspector Gadget, we don't know how many gadgets he has. Like, we don't know what all gadgets are there.
But I'm just saying, I think just the pure visceral force of, a creature as big as Reptar, if he's as big as Godzilla, maybe, I don't know. But there is always that, this battle, and, Inspector Gadget's hanging in there. He's got his fire hose or whatever. But then some sort of turn, like Inspector Gadget finds something out about Reptar. Because that's the trope in the Godzilla movies, is you've learned something new about them. Oh, it's actually a female just trying to be a mama or something. And I don't know about the new one with Bryan Cranston. I don't know what the twist in that one was.
That one is that he is a dawn of the age of the world monster king, and that he is the alpha dominant species on the entirety of the earth, and he is to be revered as such, and we are just his playthings.
That one. That's the one.
That's your version.
We'll see.
That's the one that happens.
There's one thing that you're leaving out about Reptar, that it could be both a pro and a con in this scenario. Okay?
Okay.
He's 2D, so you can just easily get around him.
Well, Inspector Gadget is also 2D.
That's true.
But like I said, it could be a pro and a con, because if you're at the edge where you can't see him, you can't see that attack coming.
Nah, this would have to be side-scroll animation while the way they were fighting, because you couldn't have, unless you got a 3D rendering like Matthew Broderick style with the Inspector Gadget. Oh, wow. Matthew Broderick was in both Inspector Gadget and Godzilla.
Whoa. Oh, man. Way to go, Matthew.
That's so cool. Godzilla sucked.
So, yeah, it's either that, like he's the supreme being and he's here to be worshipped by all these pathetic humans, or Inspector Gadget just learns that it's actually just a benevolent little creature that doesn't know what the heck's going on, and they make friends and go see Reptar and Ice together.
So you're saying either Reptar wins
Or they
or
become
it's a
friends.
tie because they're best buddies. I would love to see
Reptar on Ice? Me too.
Reptar on Ice with Inspector Gadget.
I think that sounds perfect. I vote for that, too.
Cool with that, because probably Inspector Gadget will pull a shrink ray out from nowhere.
Yeah.
And shrink Reptar down to humanoid size.
And then they can empathize more with each
Yeah.
other, because he's able to actually speak in a normal tone now, because all you could hear as a giant person that he was just
Or maybe he shrunk him down and turned him into like plastic or rubber or something, and made the first Reptar toy that catches on after that. And that's why all the kids love Reptar.
the legend of Reptar.
So you're saying the legend of Reptar wins, not the physical being Reptar. That's deep.
Well, no, he's revered. He's worshipped by like an idol by all
Right.
the children.
Yeah. So he can't be defeated, really.
And
It's kind of three different like universes all in one. I don't know. I'm confused. Move on.
Tiny, being that you are familiar with both Sasquatch and Azrael, tell us how somebody in a suit that grants him various abilities is going to defeat a superhuman with near invulnerability and strength rivaling the Hulk. Do tell.
Well, they both have a similar amount of strength due to Azrael's suit. The problem is that I can see is Sasquatch, being a hairy humanoid, would develop mats in his fur if he doesn't brush himself out enough. So I feel like he would lose some range of motion, because, I mean, if you're that large, it's hard to find a brush big enough to accommodate you. You can't, as one person, physically get all the angles to touch all of your body with said brush. I know, because I've attempted to shave my back with a normal razor. It did not work out.
Why would you even try?
I wanted to feel pretty, okay?
That just sounds
I'll do it for you.
like
We're friends.
I mean, I bought a back blade. They said it won't cut you, but I had a mole that I was unaware of, and it cut me.
It's definitely gonna cut you.
well, I was shaving my back and I ran into a little snag.
Yeah,
My
it was-
back.
I bled a lot.
Wouldn't these mats in Sasquatch's fur be points of like natural armor though? Like it's a thicker thing to get
I could
through,
see
right?
that,
But
but
it could get some weapons hung in there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Snags.
at one point, Azrael does have a flaming sword, though. So within a few cuts, he would become immolated.
But don't forget about Sasquatch's passive paranormal stink ability.
Wrong Sasquatch.
not-
Wrong Sasquatch.
Not
Okay.
to mention that Sasquatch has the same kind of regenerative abilities as the Hulk does. So even though he is damaged, he is going to bounce back. He's going to heal that wound that was caused, and he's going to keep pushing forward and fighting forward.
Yeah.
So do you think Azrael is going to be able to actually hold out against a superhuman like that? Is that going to keep happening?
I
Is he
feel
gonna-
like it would be a difficult contest, but Azrael does have combat expertise. He does have, like I said, the artificially enhanced physiology. But I feel like at a certain point, they would almost gain a mutual respect as combatants because you've got that healing factor paired with that intelligence. And it would just kind of get to the point of diminishing returns. Like, I can keep hurting him, but he'll keep healing. And Sasquatch would be like, this really sucks and this hurts a lot, even though I keep healing and I'm completely on fire. And so I smell atrocious.
So it's more inconvenient.
It'd be
So
very
like, the whole
inconvenient.
fight.
Do you want to give it that nice little Mortal Kombat friendship twist ending, kind of the way that Marcus did with his? You want him to
Kinda, because I do like both of these heroes.
And here's what happens. Mid-fight, Sasquatch lands a really good punch. And Azrael falls and sees Sasquatch's feet really are that big. But as he falls to the ground and his head hits the ground, he's hit so hard that his feet are now in the air in Sasquatch's face. And Sasquatch says, "You have big feet." Azrael says, "I was always made fun of that as a child."
I have that. I know exactly what that's like because I also have big feet.
And that's what they say to each other.
I know.
As one tear falls down Sasquatch's cheek.
Hold on.
It's their Martha moment.
Yeah. So am I in this? Am I in this fight too? Because I got big feet.
Well, you're
Can it be a 3-way? Can I be there?
Why'd you get so southern to ask me that?
I was talking naturally.
Why'd you get? Can I be a part of the
Hey,
three-way?
can I be there? Because I got big feet too.
Even though Sasquatch is charred and still healing, his heart feels whole because,
Well, he's also-
he found a fellow kindred foot
Yeah,
spirit.
and he's also Canadian, and they're just naturally nice people.
So now I feel like the asshole for making one of them win. You guys,
Yeah, you
You guys
idiot.
got to make friends.
No, they could never be friends. Their personalities clash too much.
They're way too different.
I had like 3 different alternate endings for mine, so I don't know.
And they all
can't
ended
choose.
in a mutual victory, though.
Yeah, well, even when he gets defeated, he still kind of wins because he's worshipped by all the children.
He's
Yeah.
immortal.
Yeah.
And so are we, considering that all this is recorded here on Nerd It Through the Grapevine. Thank you all for being a part of that history on iTunes and Spotify and Audible and CastBox and all the wherevers that you listen to us. And if there's a review section wherever you're listening to us, especially over there on iTunes, that I don't even know if it's called iTunes anymore. It might just be podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Go to the review section. Leave one of those with a 5-star review. If you love us, tell people why. If you hate us, leave 5 stars and tell people why. And also, if you want to wear us on your body at any point in time, or put us up to your lips and drink liquid from us, you can go to the Teespring link within the description of this episode, and you can go get a t-shirt or a hoodie or a coffee mug and things of the sort. There's a water bottle as well and a fanny pack. There's a whole bunch of things that I just slapped our logo or our name or the Hot Stinking Fecal Garbage or Visionella Noonan, or I just recently designed a Canon cowbell design that I will be putting on some things
Yeah,
very
it's
soon.
awesome.
So that's coming soon as well.
And if you would like to discuss just how Dane's characters would have became friends
I'm so sorry.
instead of fighting each other like a moron,
I'm so sorry. I didn't get the prompt.
we can talk about it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter if you look up at Nerd Grapevine. Or if you wanted to donate a little bit to the cause, you would get a shiny holographic Nerd Through the Grapevine sticker and our eternal admiration. Get on Best Friends period, Tiny Ink period on Patreon. And it would be fantastic. Just, if we do end up releasing some of this unheard material on there, don't just go spouting it out and letting everybody hear it, because it's going to, upset them a little bit, because it's not exactly, super PC, and that might cause them to have a little bit of...
I really like that sound. But you can also find us on Discord. There's a meme channel. There's a Malcolm Head thing. We're on there. It's great. On a not yet announced date in May, we're going to stream another film. I have decided this film will be The Warriors of Virtue. We talked about it on a past episode, and I feel like you should all watch it because it sucks, but it's awesome at the same time. So find us on Discord. We're on there live, uncut, uncensored, but completely circumcised. So check it out. It's a real good time.
All right, boys.
Yes.
What do I ask? It's when life gives you grapes, Shazam.
You see, when life gives me grapes, what I do is I know about it for an entire week, and I just let the grapes sit for an entire week. And then I say, well, I've got time to take care of those grapes. And then I accidentally just squish the hell out of them. But then my friends are around, and my friends say, hey, those squish grapes are going to be just fine. You didn't ruin those. And you'll help me put my squish grapes back together until they're slightly more molded and almost like very squishy, not even grapes, but they still look just as good as when they got there.
Gross.
I will consume these grapes. I will consume your
You
friend
said
grapes.
they were moldy.
Oh, no.
Molded.
Molded.
What's the difference?
Molded.
yeah, there is no
Yeah,
difference.
there is no. That's not what I meant, though.
Oh,
not
man,
mold.
now
Not,
I've got moldy grapes in my mouth.
Yeah, what the
well, it makes sense if it's got mold in it,
If
because
it's
we're
a
just
week, wouldn't it be
hate
raisins?
these
we're
things.
some fun guys.